So here we are again for another video. In my shop tour video, I showed you my French cleat wall, which you can see behind me, and I talked about my plans to build another French cleat wall for all my clamps. So we're gonna make this look like this. So the first thing I need to do before I can get started is to clear the existing wall of all the clamps and holders and anchors. So I want my French cleat wall to be 48 inches wide, but my existing wall is only 35 inches wide. So a quick frame up to get me where I need to be, and I'm back in business. I start by cutting down some 2x4s to give my frame extension the width I need. Then it's as simple as just screwing it all together. Now it's time for a little test fit. Now it's a little bit tight, but I think with a little help and persuasion from a rubber mallet, it'll fit just perfectly. Now that I got it where I want it, I'll screw it into place. So using my track saw, I have to cut about 3/4 of an inch off because my ceiling height is just under 8 feet. And this is about where I wish I would have used my dust mask and some dust collection. So I've adjusted my height, now I need to adjust my width, but this time with some dust collection and a dust mask. So if you're wondering why I'm cutting down my width, I bought my material at my local hardwood dealer, and the sheet goods through a hardwood dealer typically come a little bit wider and a little bit taller because the manufacturer anticipates material loss when you're cutting down your sheet goods. But if you're buying your plywood at the local big box store, your sheets will be exactly 4 feet by 8 feet. So now I slide my sheet into place and use a squeeze clamp to hold it right where I want it. So now I pre-drill all the holes using my Amana countersink. And I'll make sure to put a list of all the tools I used in this build in the description. And this is where I lose my pilot bit. Apparently I didn't screw it down tight enough the last time I adjusted it. After fixing my bit, I go ahead and finish all my pilot holes. And then I just screw it into place. So now I'm ready to start building my slats. So I cut my plywood down into 5-inch strips. After a quick calculation, if I have enough strips, I decide to go ahead and cut a few more. I'd rather have a few spares than not enough. So now I'm going to cut my 5-inch strips in half, putting a 45-degree bevel on each piece. So if you've never done this before, you're probably wondering where I set my fence in order to get equal strips out of each 5-inch piece. So I'll break it down for you. My strips are 5 inches wide by 3/4 inches thick. It's as simple as subtracting half the width and half the thickness to get your overall measurement. So half of 5 is 2.5, half of 3/4 is 3/8. Subtract both of those, puts me right at 2 1/8 inch, and that's where I set my fence. So I'm going to use my Jessom stock guides and a feather board to help rip down these 5-inch strips. When you're cutting down small pieces, there's not a lot of places to put your hands, so this really helps and it definitely makes it a lot safer. Now look at that, 2 identical pieces. Now I just run a small bead of glue before I tack each piece into place. So after leveling and mounting my first strip, I use these small cuts as references as I start to stack my strips as I move upward along my wall. Keep in mind these strips need to be about 1 inch thicker than your actual strips, or else you'll never get your cleats in when you hang your tools. Now it's as simple as stacking and nailing it into place. And of course, the air compressor kicks on when you least expect it. So I will be adding more screws to each one of these to add to the brad nails and glue, but I realized I didn't have any 1¼ screws other than drywall screws, and I don't want to use those. I think they're ugly, they don't have the strength. So I will be coming back later on to add those screws in. And here's the finished product. So I hope this video was helpful, and I hope it inspires all of you out there who are thinking about building your own French cleat wall. Until next time, we'll see you later.